I like to focus on the positive as much as possible. However, there's also reality to contend with. And the reality is that some people are just plain toxic. So this week on Better Mental Health, I'm sharing 7 ways to deal with toxic people. Starting with, set clear and healthy boundaries. Decide on what you are willing to accept and what you're not, and set your boundaries accordingly. Now that might mean telling the other person what your boundaries are and asking them to respect them. On the other hand, that might mean being clear on your expectations with yourself and focusing on what you need to change in the situation. Because all you can ever directly control is yourself in terms of your words, actions, and feelings. For example, if someone is repeatedly behaving in a way that leads you to feel frustrated or unhappy, figure out what it is that you're going to do about it. Again, recognizing that you can only directly control your own words and actions here. So once you've set clear boundaries, then maintain your boundaries. So look, boundaries are great, but if you don't maintain them, they're pointless. They're just an imaginary line. Now, I'm going to give an example which might seem a little crass, but it's one that I'm sure many of us would be familiar with. If a neighbor's cat likes to crap in your garden and you tell it to shoo once, but then you don't say anything the next time it does it, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to keep on crapping in your garden. Don't let other people crap in your garden. Tell them to shoo each and every time, otherwise your inaction is a form of allowing the behavior. So be vigilant and assertive, which leads to my next point. Address breaches. If someone repeatedly breaches your boundaries, that needs to be addressed, because it's willful behavior, as in they're actively making a choice to keep on doing it. Trust and believe when I tell you when things like that keep on happening, they know what they're doing, especially if they're ignoring your request to stop. Here's how I like to handle this in a really simple 1, 2, 3 approach. First time, I highlight it to give the person the benefit of the doubt in case they've done it accidentally. So I will point out what has happened and that it goes against what my wishes are or what we might have discussed. Second time, I'll address it as an emerging pattern. For example, I'll note that we've discussed it twice now, and yet the same thing is happening. Now, I do find here that it's worthwhile in some situations, especially with people that you're close to, like family members, to be assertive but open, like, for example, highlighting what has happened and then asking open-ended questions, such as, what's going on here from your perspective? So that for me is about trying to listen and understand while at the same time having my nonsense detector turned up to high alert. Because remember what I said before? Don't put up with crap. But it's about giving the person an opportunity to talk and try to understand what's going on with them. For some people, this stuff isn't malicious. It's just a case of being inconsiderate or not thinking before they speak or act, if that kind of makes sense. So instead of just jumping into confrontation mode, call them out on it, and that gives them an opportunity to do something about it. And the third time, well, it needs to be confronted directly, because now it is an established pattern. It's such a pattern, it should be available to buy as wallpaper. Address that pattern assertively with the person. So you might say, hey, I've talked to you about this 3 times and you're continuing to treat me with disrespect. I will no longer accept or tolerate it because I do not put up with crap. And then apply consequences. So I'm not talking about a slap on the wrist here or giving more chances. At work, take action via your manager or with human resources. At home, remove yourself from the relationship either temporarily or indefinitely. If you're finding these tips helpful so far, give this video a like so that YouTube knows to show it to other people looking for ways to deal with toxic people. All right, so on to my next point, spend less time with them. And this is where the don't put up with crap bit of advice comes into play again, because it's about putting your mental health and well-being first. If you've done all the other stuff that I've been talking about and the person has no interest in adapting the way that they behave towards you, all you can do is limit the amount of time that you spend with them. Now, I know that hurts when it's someone that you're really close to, especially if it's family, and that's something I explored in this video about dealing with difficult family members, and it's linked in the description below. But the thing is that the choice is always yours. And if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And so that leads to my next point. Remove yourself from the situation or relationship entirely. This is often the hardest pill for most people to swallow, and we often try to resist doing this as much as possible. But hear me, and hear me well. If someone is treating you like crap and they refuse to show you basic decency or treat you with dignity, you need to remove yourself from that situation. Like now. Go on, pause this video, I'll wait. If it's at work, change departments or change employers. If it's family, stop speaking to the person. If it's a romantic partner, leave. If you've addressed things multiple times and it just keeps on happening, there has to be a point at which you choose to remove yourself from that situation. It doesn't matter what the person's relationship is to you. No relationship or no situation is worth putting yourself in that position for. And these might seem like overly simple solutions, but far from it. This is often the most difficult type of action for most people to take. But there's a point at which all you can do is focus on what is within your direct control. And if that means that you need to leave the situation or relationship completely, then do so. Your mental health and well-being needs to be your #1 priority. Next, forgive if you can, but don't forget. Forgiveness is 100% about you and letting go so that you can move forward without feeling trapped in the anger, hurt, or betrayal. But it doesn't mean the relationship has to continue. It doesn't mean you have to tell the other person you forgive them. And even if you decide to, then it doesn't mean that you give the other person a blank slate to do whatever they want with you again. Don't forget refers to the fact that forgiveness goes hand in hand with your boundaries, which are up to you to set and maintain. Now, I do want to just say here that the whole don't forget thing doesn't mean that if you decide to forgive someone that you then watch them like a hawk or you use the past as a weapon against them. To give you an extreme example, if you're in a relationship and your partner cheats and over time you decide to forgive them, it's not healthy if you then keep them on a tight leash or constantly throw what they did in their face as a means of controlling them. In fact, that's toxic. If you can't let go of the hurt and anger, then you're not ready to forgive and move forward. And so that leads to my next point. Get support, because you don't have to go through all these type of things alone. Work with a counselor or therapist to explore your difficult times and look for possible solutions together. And for more serious situations, seek specialist support. Please don't feel that you are stuck or that you have to fix everything on your own, because there are just lots of different resources that are available and services that can support you no matter what your situation is. All it requires from you is to take that first step and ask for help. You will be okay, and you do have the strength to choose to remove toxic people from your life. And that will improve your mental health and well-being. The choice is yours, as it is with all things related to your well-being. So, what choice will you make today? Let me know in the comments below. And a big part of this whole topic today is about recognizing your self-worth, and that's something I talk about in this video, where I share 8 ways to improve your self-worth. So click the link to watch it next. And you'll find even more advice on managing your well-being in my weekly podcast, Let's Talk About Mental Health. It's linked in the description below. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.